Join me today for an action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball, where I review the 2023 season for the Milwaukee Brewers.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Riding solo today, no Matt. But if you're listening on an app, platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings or reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you do decide to do that, guess what? You have an opportunity to win a special little prize. Take a screenshot of that rating and review, send it over to us at fantasymds@gmail.com, or even just DM it to us on Instagram or Twitter, and you get a chance to join our listener league for next year. We'll be doing that raffle within the next couple of months, so you still got some time there, but we would appreciate it if you could do it for us. Also, if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes to the channel, also gives you notification every time we drop a new episode. And guys, real quick before we get into it, I got to talk to you about FanDuel. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers can bet $5 to get 200 in bonus bets back, guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. And all right, guys, we're getting into it with the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going through these episodes here, trying to get through a little review for every team. World Series is looking pretty, awesome right now. Rangers are up 2-1. I think the Rangers are going to pull it out, but I love the scrappy Diamondbacks team. Can't believe they made it this far. Corbin Carroll's an absolute superstar, but that Rangers team just has so much going for it. Going to be tough. I think Adolis Garcia and Scherzer are going to be out with the rest of the series. I think that official word came down today as I'm recording on Tuesday. So we'll see. We'll see, guys. But you know what? Let's talk about the Brewers. Let's talk about, the studs, the duds, and everything in between. And, you kind of got to start off with pretty much the leader of the crew. Let's talk about Corbin Burnes. Now, Corbin Burnes had a good season, maybe not, best pitcher in baseball season, but you know what? He was definitely still good. He had a lot of blow-up starts, but for the most part, he was pretty serviceable for you, if not, above and beyond. Corbin Burnes over 32 starts this year at 10 wins, 8 losses, a 3.39 ERA, 193 innings pitched, 200 strikeouts, and a 106 whip. I mean, once again, very, very good year. Maybe not, the ace of all aces anymore, but he's still right up there with the best of them. The strikeout rate did come down a little bit. Honestly, everything is good though. All the pitches seem like they were on point. Just the results really weren't, where they had been in past years. He lost a little bit of velocity on the cutter, but nothing really that I'm looking at it and I'm like going, oh, that's so crazy. Even the movement on the pitches look pretty good as well. I think Corbin Burnes gets back to similar ace upside for next year. I believe I have Corbin Burnes ranked as my number 3 SP for next year. Let me just double check that for you guys. But honestly, there's nothing that really scares me off Corbin Burnes. A lot of the best pitchers in all of baseball have gotten blown up, this season. And, I got Corbin Burnes behind Cole and Strider. But honestly, I think he's solid as an ace for next season. I don't really think we're too worried about Corbin Burnes. He's only going to be 29. He's really shown his dominance, since 2020. Hasn't really fallen off much since there. And the ratio is still going to be good. The Milwaukee Brewers team that, finished first in the NL Central, 92 wins. 70 losses, a lot of opportunity for wins there on that team. I think they're going to be just as strong next year. So, yeah, that's Corbin Burnes. Let's move on to their best bat. Let's talk about Christian Yelich. Honestly, nice little, strong season from Yelich. He's not the former, MVP Yelich anymore, but he's still pretty serviceable when it comes to fantasy baseball, especially when you're talking about, points leagues, categories leagues. He was really getting it done all over the place. Walked a decent amount this year across 144 games, 632 plate appearances, 550 at bats, 106 runs. That's absolutely blown me away. Love the 34 doubles, the triple, 19 homers, 76 RBIs, 28 steals for Yelich, and a 278 batting average. And strong bounce back in the batting average department over the last 3 years. He really wasn't getting it done. Back up to 278. I really love, what Christian Yelich is doing here at the end of his career. We're not going to see that 30, plus bomb upside anymore. But if he's getting you over 15 home runs, he's above and beyond in runs and steals, even with the, improved base stealing this year with the bigger bases and the pickoff rule being implemented. I still love the 28 steals from Yelich. And the batting average, he's a career 286 guy. I think he's going to sit around 280 for at least the next couple of years. I think Yelich might get back in the category of being properly rated. I have him as my number 25 outfielder. So if you get him as your outfielder too, I think you're doing pretty well going into next season. We haven't really seen too much injury from him. The back was an issue, a few years ago, and it seems like he's still running, still playing. So I'm going to count on him. I would prefer to get him as my outfielder 3 next year. I don't think it's going to happen. So if you get him as your outfielder 2, just make sure you have a little bit of a sturdy backup. Let's talk to somebody who's perennially injury prone, and I feel so bad. It's Brandon Woodruff. Brandon Woodruff, if you haven't already heard the news, he is out for the 2024 season. It's really sad to see. He dealt with so many injuries over the last few years. He had the shoulder issue this year. He had the sprained ankle and the Raynaud's last year. He's just been, quite banged up over the last few years. But when he's out there, he is so good. I just wanted to highlight, Brandon Woodruff's, shortened good season, and just wish this man the best, because it stinks that he's been so banged up over the last few years. We haven't really gotten to see so Brandon Woodruff as we would have liked to. But across Woodruff's 11 starts this year at 5 wins, 1 loss, a 2.28 ERA, 11 starts, 67 innings, 74 strikeouts, and a 0.82 whip. So if you drafted Brandon Woodruff this year, you were a little bit mad, him dealing with all the injuries. But while he was out there, man, he just gets the job done. And once again, it just stinks to see that he's really going to miss all of next year, and we'll be having to ride without him. It's a tough situation if we want to talk about dynasty leagues with Brandon Woodruff right now, because he's going to be 31 next year. By the time he comes back, he's going to be 32. Is he still going to be as dominant as he is now? That's yet to be determined. But honestly, in a league where you're only keeping a few guys and redraft leagues, it's just not really looking that good for next season with Brandon Woodruff. And before we move on and we talk about William Contreras and Freddie Peralta and, the rest of these fantastic players for the Brewers that got them, to the playoffs, but a short-lived run here, I have a quick ad for you guys. Guys, October baseball is back, and you can make your postseason debut with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Join FanDuel today, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to create a new account. Then you can get in on the action from the first pitch until the final out. Bet on everything from strikeouts to home runs to who will win the game. And if you don't want to wait the whole game to get a W, predict what will happen next in at bat with quick bets. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now. Step up to the plate this postseason with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, guys, just a real quick pitch here. If you're not already subscribed to us on the Subtext website, you might want to try and go ahead and do that. Matt and I are going to be releasing our 2024 fantasy baseball rankings very soon, and we're going to have every position covered for you guys with depth. I know I have over 120 starting pitchers, I have 100 outfielders, and I have at least 40 at every infield position. Catcher about 30 deep. So if you get in on subtext, you're going to get access to those very early. Once again, I even throw it out there. If you guys play fantasy football, Matt and I play as well. You got any of those questions you can answer, we'll answer them on subtext. Also, if you have keeper, dynasty questions, stuff like that, who should you be targeting in dynasty? Trade some keepers, stuff like that for fantasy baseball for next season. Join us on subtext. We're answering right away on all of these questions. We just want to make sure you guys, stay locked on this off season so we're ready for next season. We can get you guys some more locked on championships. But let's keep pushing here. Let's talk about the rest of this team. Pretty strong Brewers teams. A lot of guys that helped in fantasy this year. And one of my favorite guys on the team, William Contreras. I was so happy when he came over in that trade from Atlanta. Just really awesome to see, him not being held back by Travis d'Arnaud anymore. I knew if he got the full opportunity that he was just going to be great for fantasy, and he sure was. Honestly, just going to pick up where his big brother left off and just be that Contreras household name. These guys like the Molinas now. If you guys are old like me, remember Benji and Yadier and just everybody, man. They're the new brothers in town. So William Contreras is 25 years old. He played 141 games, 540 at-bats, 86 runs, 38 doubles, 17 homers, 78 RBIs, 6 steals, and he had 291. I think the batting average comes down. I think he's going to be more of like a 275, 280 type of guy. I think the home runs are going to go up because, in 2022, in only 97 games and 334 at-bats, William hit 20, only hit 17 this year. I could see him being more of like a 25 home run type of guy. And he's just helping you all across the board, William Contreras. Honestly, I have him as my number 3 catcher going into next season, and I really think there's an upside of him being the number 1 catcher in all of baseball. Let's just hope the ADP doesn't get too out of control with him and everyone's not, freaking out and he's knowing to do number 1 catcher, so we can get at least a little bit of value on him. But even if not, catching is pretty deep going into next season, in my opinion. But you got to love William Contreras near at the top after this monstrous season he had. And I had him ranked pretty high coming into the season because I really just knew that this guy, it runs in the bloodline, and I knew he had it in him. Let's move on to this next guy, kind of going back and forth between pitching and hitting. Let's talk about Freddie Peralta. Now, Freddie Peralta had a great year. I don't really care what the ERA says, even though we're talking about a 3.86 ERA for Freddie Peralta across 30 starts, 12 wins, 10 losses, 165 innings, 210 strikeouts, and a 1.11 WHIP. Freddie Peralta just had some blow-up starts, man, and he finished really, really strong down the stretch. We're talking about a kid, 27 years old this year, 28 next year, in the prime of his career. The guy's got elite stuff. He's just fantastic. Honestly, I really think this guy is going to, maybe even next year, the year after, just really going to have a breakout year, really going to have a run at a Cy Young Award here, in my opinion. I really think it's in his DNA to just do this. I want to talk about how good he was down the stretch, though. So Freddie Peralta had a 6 earned run start on July 21st. After that, he followed that performance up with the 6th inning, 13 strikeout, no earned run matchup. It was against Cincinnati, but he went all the way to the rest of the season, that being 11 starts for Freddie Peralta to finish the year. 8 wins, 3 losses, 62 innings, 92 strikeouts, 11 walks. Batters hit 185 against him, a 2.44 ERA. The guy was just absolutely out of this world, like a under 1 WHIP. I really think there's a version of Freddie Peralta that we get over the next couple of years that's going to be just worthwhile as a top, 15 starting pitcher. Going into next year, I have Freddie Peralta as my number 15 starting pitcher. So honestly, I think he's going to be a high-end SP2. I don't know if we're going to have to draft him there. We might. And honestly, with the caliber of pitchers or the way pitching panned out this year, I want a guy that I know can be elite and that's going to carry me in strikeouts and just really be what I need him to be when it comes to high-end starting pitcher. And I think Freddie Peralta is just a guy that can do that for us going into next year. So I'm pretty confident in him. Let's move on to somebody who had a good year. In most departments, not all of them, maybe not as good as we would have liked, but let's talk about Willy Adames as we move back and forth once again between hitting and pitching. Now, Willy Adames this past season, not phenomenal. 2022, we kind of really saw, I want to say, the peak of how good Willy Adames can be. 2022, Adames had 139 games, 563 at-bats, 83 runs, 31 doubles, 31 homers, 98 RBIs, 8 steals, 238 batting average. He played 10 more games this year, Willy Adames did, and he had 73 runs, 29 doubles, 2 triples, 24 homers, 80 RBIs, and that batting average dropped all the way down to 213. Even though the walk to strikeout ratio improved, you normally don't see that. I think his batting average upside is higher than where it was this past year. Shortstop is super deep, honestly. So Willy Adames next year isn't somebody I'm going crazy for. I have him as my 24th shortstop. Honestly, if you need somebody who could bop the ball, get you a couple homers, RBIs, and runs are going to be decent. You get you a Willy Adames, but honestly, not somebody I'm going to be beating down the doors for next year. We kind of know his upside, what it is. Not really going to give you double-digit steals. The batting average is very, very suspect. I don't foresee him having an age 28 breakout season, but is he good in spurts? Is he going to help you win specific categories? Yeah, Willy Adames will definitely get that done. So we're talking about next year. Once again, got him as my 24th shortstop. I could see that moving up a couple, maybe high 20s, but that's really about it. I mean, low 20s, but that's really about it. Let's talk about somebody that, if you listen to me, I think I had him as my number 3 closer coming into this year. Let's talk about big bad Devon Williams. I mean, the guy was arguably the best closer this season. I just knew it coming. All he needed was that door open by Josh Hader leaving, and I knew he was going to take the role and run with it. Devon Williams is a 28-year-old, made the All-Star team this year, 8 wins, 3 losses, a 1.53 ERA across 61 games. He had 36 saves, 58 innings, 87 strikeouts, and an 0.92 whip. For the foreseeable future, Devon Williams, top 5 closer, hands down. I don't know if we're going to get the value that we did on him last year, this year. And honestly, once again, it's arguable, but I think Devon Williams is most reliable closer going into next year. I have him as my number 1 closer. You can argue Josh Hader and Felix Bautista. I'm not gonna, blow you down for that one, but honestly, I think Devon Williams is right up there and just going to be very, very good for the foreseeable future when it comes to closers in fantasy baseball. I just honestly don't see anyone being able to argue with that at this point. I'm a huge fan of his, and once again, if you listen to me here in the offseason at Locked On, he was somebody I was saying he was a must-have me leaving drafts, especially because of the value that we were getting on him. Let's keep things pushing, though. Let's talk about Bryce Terang here. We got a couple of young bloods, on this list that kind of were a little bit hit, a little bit miss. Once again, my motto is always we can't expect guys, everyone's going to come up being Acuna or Soto or Tatis and just have monster rookie years. We kind of got to look at these guys and see where there's some potential, some upside. And with Bryce Terang, I think there's a little bit there, especially when it comes to the speed department. So his rookie season, Bryce Terang, age 23, 137 games, 404 at-bats, 46 runs. He had 9 doubles, 3 triples, 6 homers, 34 RBIs, 26 steals. Strikeout to walk ratio, not fantastic with 38 walks, 94 strikeouts, a 218 batting average for Bryce Terang. In his rookie season, there is upside here. There's a speed upside. There's upside in runs with him if he gets, hitting towards the top of that lineup, which I'm not 100% sure that's going to happen with, the way things go over here. You still got Yelich to beat out. You still got William Contreras, who is, top of that lineup. And there's hopefully this one young guy we're going to talk about later. And somebody might talk about sooner than later, Sal Frelick. They're going to go back and forth. But, Bryce Terang, maybe if he gets that that 9 spot going. He could, have that run department look pretty good with the top of that lineup batting him in. But he's not really going to give you too much power. The stolen bases has, 30, 35 upside even. And the batting average, let's see if he can, adjust, because it's all about making adjustments, watching film, getting in there, working on bat speed, working on all that stuff when it comes to these young kids. And we'll see what Terang's made of next year. He hit pretty strong in the minors in 15 games this year, where he hit 298. In 2022, across 131 games, he hit 286. Before that, wasn't really great in 2021 or 2019 in the minors with a 256 and 258 batting average. So I think the upside here is 250, 260 for Bryce Terang, with a lot of steals, a lot of runs. Not going to help you really in homers or RBIs. So, just a name that we're going to keep on our radar for next year. Maybe, last pick of the draft type of guy here with Bryce Terang, and, we'll see where the thing goes. But that's all I really got on him. Let's talk about Wade Miley. Old reliable, man. Just sneaking on through, getting it done. It's so funny with him, man. He didn't really I didn't really expect him to have this like late, 34, 35, 36 age season where he's just serviceable. But man, he comes out this year, does it again after Chicago last year and Cincinnati the year before. Wade Miley had 23 starts, 9 wins, 4 losses, a 3.14 ERA, 120 innings, 79 strikeouts, and the whip was a 1.13. Honestly, that's the best whip of Miley's career. So I don't know how old man's getting it done, but he's out there. He's doing it, honestly. If he's still hanging around next year, just a guy that we're going to feel good about streaming in and out on, matchup-dependent basis, because he's just shown it. He's shown he can get it done. So, when you have a guy like this who's been around the block and really has figured something out here, giving Father Time a run for his money, I think we just see where the thing goes. You know what you get. There's going to be some blow-up starts. But for the most part, over the last 3 years, let's even just average this out and see how good Wade Miley has been at the end of his career. So his last 59 starts of his career over the last 3 years, 23 wins, 13 losses, 3.26 ERA, 320 innings, 232 strikeouts with a 1.24 whip. I mean, that's not really bad. It's not bad. That's, a guy at the end of your rotation that you're like, okay, I'm not super, super mad at, having Wade Miley at the end of my rotation in a fantasy league, because he just goes out there, gets it done. Let's move on to not our last guy. Let's talk about, another one of these young players. Let's talk about Sal Frelick. He was a guy that we kind of expected a lot from, had a little bit of prospect buzz, had been pretty solid in the minors in 2022, pretty much a breakout season for him down there in 2022. Sal Frelick just was a little bit banged up, a little bit disappointing. I don't really know how else to put it here other than that. I thought he was going to be a guy that could make the roster, have an impact for fantasy. But he did play 57 games this year, 191 at-bats. He had 29 runs. He had 9 doubles, 3 homers, 24 RBIs, 7 steals, and a 246 batting average. I think there's a lot more that we'll see from Frelick next year. I think the steals upside is good. The homers, not really too much. He's got to put a little bit of muscle onto that man frame. He's 5'10", 182. I mean, that's actually a pretty big boy for 5'10". But I guess, the power hasn't really come into play for him yet. Maybe we'll see a little bit more next year. There's just upside. There's upside here. I'm not, going out of my way to get him. I currently have Frelick. I probably got him down in the dumps. I'm going to be honest with you. I got him as like my 77th outfielder going into next year. There's upside. Kind of want to see how he looks in spring training, coming back off of a few injuries this season. And we'll take it from there with Frelick. I do have one more guy I want to talk to you about before we get things out of here. I want to talk about Jackson Chourio. If you haven't heard about Jackson Chourio, what are you doing at this point in time? Top prospect for the Milwaukee Brewers. Second top prospect in all of baseball. And he's just can do it all. Honestly, let's talk about what he just did this prior season. 282 batting average, 128 games, 88 runs, 26 doubles, 3 triples. He also had, didn't mean to click that. He had 91 RBIs, 22 homers. He had 44 steals, and the walk to strikeout ratio was 43 walks, 104 strikeouts. So he's not doing atrocious. He's not doing the best. But this kid, Jackson Chourio, man, he's still, I believe he's still only 19. Yeah, he's still 19. He'll be 20 at the start of next season. He's got plus power. He's got, plus speed. His fielding is very good. The hit tool is good. I mean, 5'11", 165. Imagine this guy, puts on another 10 pounds. I mean, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. If there's any chance he makes the team next year, he's going to be flying up draft boards. I don't have him ranked yet for next season. I kind of just want to see how things play out. I want to see what the Brewers say about him. I want to see if there's plans for him to be there at spring training next season for the Brewers. And I just think that the upside for him is literally through the roof. Once again, I'm talking about Jackson Chourio, outfield prospect for the Milwaukee Brewers. Kid's going to be very, very good. Since we have a little time, I do want to talk about one more guy. I want to talk about Jacob Misiorowski. He's a right-handed pitcher from Milwaukee Brewers. He's 6'7", 190 pounds. This kid is very, very good. The talent is through the roof. I really, really think that, he's going to be coming up in this system. He gets to learn from Woodruff. He gets to learn from Freddie Peralta. He gets to learn from Corbin Burns. Good numbers, too. Let's read those numbers off from this past season. It was 20 starts from Misiorowski. He had 4 wins, 2 losses. With that 3.41 ERA I mentioned, 71 innings, 110 strikeouts. Batters hit 169 against him with a 1.18 whip. I believe it was at the Futures game where Misiorowski came out and he was just blowing through the top prospects in the league, and he really jumped on everyone's radar if he hadn't already, and everyone's just talking about Misiorowski, and I think he's going to be very, very talented. A name I'm keeping my eye on to see if he gets the call up for next year. Other than that, guys, that's all I really got for the Milwaukee Brewers. As I mentioned, you should guys check us out on Subtext. If you're still listening this time of year, you're probably a pretty big fan of ours, and we just appreciate the help this time of year. You're getting on there on Subtext. Just love having those fantasy baseball conversations. It's a year-round thing for Matt and I. We're always doing the work. We want to help you guys out as much as we can when it comes to dynasty questions, keeper questions. As I said, our rankings are going to be out sooner than later. We're going to have busts. We're going to do, some special episodes for you guys that are Subtext only this off season. So you guys just want to make sure you're locked on for all that stuff. So we're there helping you out and just enjoying the fantasy baseball off season and, and a little bit of football here and there too. But other than that, guys, don't really have too much else for you. So please make sure you like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Also, thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. Be sure to be on the lookout for a new episode tomorrow, where Matt and I will be back in action together. I don't know 100% what team we're talking about up next, but it's going to be a good one as always. And after we kind of, tamper down with these, team review episodes, we're going to be getting to some juicy episodes. We're going to do some rankings debates. We're going to do some, kind of positional preview type of episodes and stuff like that. But guys, that's enough for me. So make sure that you guys are locked on tomorrow, new episode. Until then, guys, see ya.